When we sailed out of Southampton and we'd gone away from the docks, we were just staring, not saying a great deal. People knew that there was a job to go. It was still a very uneasy feeling. Nobody knew what was going to happen when they got down there. I was 16 and a half when I joined to do my training. I was very proud to pass out. I was very pleased to pass out. To me, passing out and being a Welsh Guard was something special. Guardsman Simon Weston. 2446 9434. 1st Battalion Welsh Guards. Most of the lads who was there knew what they were doing.
Hey, battle to the north!
All paid to do our job. We all signed a little dotted line. So when you go to war or something like that, you've got... I don't know whether you can regret signing the dotted line. I don't. Well, I don't think I do anyway. Galahad. I was 46% burns, which is 46% of my body. Some of it was deep and some of it was very deep.
Oh, no, leave, no!
Quiet, lad, but just one move, go. Beautiful, keep going. Keep going, that's lovely.
Oh.
Tuck your arms in. Well done.
Down on us.
Well done.
There was parts of my body burnt were my hands, my head, and my back. Is it any good?
Let's put it this way, it's not much good to you today, but it will improve. That looks
Stuck, is it?
well. No hurry. There's no hurry, it'll soak off. Some areas there which are a bit on the deep side, but all in all, that's not too bad. The biggest problem is being stuck to things, I think.
Looking back over the last 2 years, I've had my own personal ups and downs. It'll be written down in history, but nobody will really remember. That's the same as any war. Everybody forgets. There'll probably be another war. There'll probably be another Simon Weston. It's got to happen to somebody. The burns, they didn't just change my life, they changed my mother's, my stepfather, Lofty.
Can you shift this pillow up a bit?
It's certainly not going to affect anybody else's, is it?
How's that?
The biggest challenge I had was getting back to being Simon Weston. But now, the biggest challenge I have now set in front of me is learning to live with life. You know, learning to be a human being again.
After the first documentary went out, the public response is just overwhelming. There was over 1,000 letters in the post, and just the way people reacted to you. You can't really explain what it felt like to receive all these letters from people you've never met or people you've never talked to. They send you little different things.
Should we look at this one, Simon?
One little lad sent me his lucky key ring.
This is from London. This lady wants to send you some money. What would you prefer to do? Would you rather have the money or have some income, clothes or what?
Well, I'd rather have I'd rather have a set of jogging trousers or something like that.
Set of jogging trousers, right. Let me just have a look at her name here. Okay. Mark that left one in.
Since the last documentary, I'm feeling a lot better. People say I'm looking a lot better. My hands are a lot more useful now. Finding out what you can do and can't do, or what you might or might not be able to do, is a challenge. I've just conquered making an egg sandwich. I can toast. I suppose I could open a tin if I put my mind to it. It's an everyday thing for most people, but for me at the time, I couldn't make a cup of coffee because the kettle was either, the steam was too hot for my hands, or I don't know, the kettle was too heavy and it hurt the fingers. But now it's just an everyday occurrence now. My left hand, the fingers are very stiff. Well, they burnt the tendons off the top. And I lost my little finger because it was of no use and it was in the way. So the surgeons took that off. So the hands are pretty much gnarled in a way, and scarred. The thumb is all right. It's about, well, this is the only perfect working digit I've got. Dead. Obviously, when my face was burnt, my nose shrunk because I've got this awkward skin which contracts. So my nose went up and I looked like, well, a male version of Miss Piggy in a sense. And it was sticking up, you could see right up my nostrils with just looking straight on at me. So what the Colonel did, Colonel McDermott, the surgeon,
About the other work now,
he took some skin off the top of my bum
those upper eyelids have done quite well.
and he put it on my nose. So whenever I kiss anybody or anything, they don't know how close they come to kissing my backside, do they?
All right.
My arms are very thin, my muscles are not what they should be. I need to get all-round strength back that I lost through muscle deterioration just lying in a bed. And that's why I bought the weights. There's a lot of things I'm limited to as exercise goes. And a lot of people don't understand how tender the hands are. And how hard it is to, people say, oh, well, I suppose you could do press-ups on a bench or something, or have a bar to do press-ups. They don't realise they're taking the whole weight of my body on my hands then, and then it hurts. You know what I mean? And then I could split the skin, I could slip. I've got no grip as such for things like that, so I can't do it. There's no chance of me playing rugby again, to be quite serious. No chances. My sister's children, Richard and Rebecca, probably the two most important things in my life. At first I was worried about Rebecca because she knew me before I got injured. Richard has never seen me other than the way I am. He's, now and again, he has a look at my hands, and I don't think he can quite figure out why they're different.
And the grandchildren have been fantastic for him. They come home, you know, when Rebecca comes home from school, straight into Simon. Oh, they love him. And Richard is only little, and he gets this little fat arm, and it only goes halfway round his neck, you know. And he's giving Simon kisses. He idolises Simon. The adoration in his eyes when he looks at him, you know. Simon thinks an awful lot about him. He really does. They don't notice his injuries. Rebecca, I think, must vaguely remember him before he was injured, because you can show her a photograph and she says, that's Simon. Show it to Richard, and he said, it's not. And no way will he accept a photograph of Simon prior to being injured as being Simon at all. Simon is as he is now, and that's the only way he accepts him.
Investigated, and we have taken appropriate steps to limit the damage. 7 bombs exploded early today in the centre of Lyon, injuring 2 people and causing considerable damage to public buildings and banks. The most powerful of the explosions...
This time has been about 4.5, 5 months away from hospital. It's been pretty boring generally. I watch telly most of the time and do very little else.
Wales now has an unemployment rate of 17%. The latest figures published today by the Department of Employment show a major jump of over 14,000 from last month. The new total of nearly 182,000.
You know that?
It's lovely to sort of turn around and
Chief Executive of the Welsh Water Authority, Bernard Doyle, took the decision this morning after reviewing reservoir levels in the drought-stricken area.
He's grounded at the moment, and his frustrations must be absolutely awful. He sees nothing. It's the same thing day after day until he goes back into hospital. It must be a release for him to go back to hospital, to get on the train and go back, to have a change of faces. He said, I've got 24 hours a day to think of myself and nothing else but myself. You don't, Mum. He said, you get respite from it because you're able to do your job. You're able to forget about me for a while.
Mrs. Price? Hello, it's Nurse. Your legs have been a bit painful, Mrs. Price.
They were last night, yes, burning, they were burning.
When are you due at the hospital now?
The 7th of February, 7th or the 8th of February.
Let me see. There we are. A lot better. Good morning, Mrs. Edwards.
Come in.
How are things today?
Cold?
Hello. Thank you, Mrs. Edwards. Right, where's the polythene, Mr. Edwards?
You guys did.
Right.
There was so much going on, so much happening in the beginning of my injuries that I didn't have time to stop and think and shower myself with self-pity, really. I was back and forth to hospital and to RAF Chesington, the rehabilitation centre. I was back and forth doing different things all the time, and it was hectic. You didn't have much time to yourself, so you didn't have much time to think about anything. But as time wore on, and I started getting more time off and longer stays away from hospital, I had time to think then, and that's when the depression set in, I think. At the beginning of the year, I was very, very depressed. I was like 10 bears with a sore head. I was rude to people, rude to my family. There wasn't any pleasure to be with, sort of thing.
I've never lived in such a situation as this. And to live with somebody with depression, and week after week after week, and no help from anyone. You don't know who to turn to for help. And it's a very, very desperate situation.
He really is, or can be, absolutely awful to me. Can be very nasty. And it's only me he does it to. I was once told when Simon was injured that our lives would never be the same again. And I've lived to remember those words, and I must agree, our lives will never ever be the same again. Really not. I'll go down to my mother sometimes and I'll sit and I'll cry to her and I'll tell her exactly, and she's an absolute brick.
Oh, hello.
cold this morning, you know. I went out the back just now and I almost slipped on the ice.
Oh, I was
It's so icy out there.
Oh.
I suppose you want a cup of tea?
Yes,
don't you?
please. Yes, please. Oh,
I could do with one. But I'm
Right.
going to make you one now.
Oh. I had to come down to see you, Mum. I've just had enough. Simon's just terrible. Depression. Not talking to me, just staying in his bedroom. I just don't know what to do. I don't know what to do for the best.
Well, Paul, this is natural, isn't it? You know, he's going to feel like this.
Well, you say he's going to feel like it, Mum has been on for weeks and weeks. He's just upstairs. I take food up to him. Just doesn't listen to me. I just don't know what to do for the best.
Pauline, you've coped very well right up until now, and you will do it to the end. I think you're very close to the problem, and now you're going to have to withdraw a little bit, make him do more for himself. You know, you were waiting on him hand, foot and finger, now, aren't you?
It's easy to say that, Mum, but after you've gone through 2 years of it, it's so
Yes, but
difficult.
it's telling on you now, see, Pauline.
But
You know?
he doesn't come downstairs at all. You take every cup of tea up to him, every meal of food up. He just
I
says...
appreciate all this, but you've got to think of yourself as well. I mean, I feel deeply for him. You know that. But you've got to think of yourself as well. You see, as I pointed out to him, you were my girl and you were worrying me. Where you were worrying about Simon, I am worrying about you. I've pointed this out to him. But at the moment, he can't see that. But he will, Paul.
I know, but it's the terrible guilt he got over the feelings of these boys dying. He feels that he doesn't want to live himself. Mum, he's come into the bedroom in the night to me. And the other night I had to order him to leave the bedroom because I couldn't cope with it anymore. Crying terribly, saying that he just couldn't cope. And I said to him, well, what do you mean by this, Simon? And he said to me, well, if I can't cope, Mum, I'll end my life. How would you answer that, Mum? Because I don't know.
No, I know, Paul. You're going to have help, that's all. Can't you get in touch with somebody? I mean, I go up and I talk to him. He gets mad at me and I think, well, I've stimulated you now. I come out and I'm broken-hearted because I've done that. But the thing is, you're going to have help.
I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting now, see, Mum. This is the problem.
I know, Paul.
Well, the only thing I can do is get
and I
on...
really don't know what to say to you.
Well, I can just get on to the guards, that's all, and see if they can give me some help in some way.
They can, Paul. There's somebody somewhere must be able to help.
If they could just come in our house and see... Loft and I are downstairs, Simon's upstairs with a closed door. We talk in whispers. I go out to work and I come home. My first words to Loft are, how has he been today, Loft? What sort of a day have you had, Loft? And our life just revolves round Simon and nothing else. You can't carry on like this, Mum. I can't carry on like it at all. I see it, I can go out and I can solve other people's problems. I can stand off the situation and I can view the family objectively. And yet I can't do it for myself.
You're
Why?
too close to it, Paul, and he's too dear to you, isn't he? And I've been up a few times. I've tried to talk to him, but he's in such deep depression. But what answer have you got for him? You've got none. Because there's nothing he can do, is there, with those hands?
But why does he turn on me, Mum? I mean, I do everything that I possibly can for him, and yet he turns on me.
He loves most. That's who he's turning on. If he knows he can talk to you, he can do these things to you, it's because he loves you so much.
I can't.
And he's in a desperate situation. This is the way he's feeling, love him.
I've come this far, and yet I feel so guilty that I've just stopped. I can't go any further.
You mustn't feel like that. There's no guilt at all. There's no more anybody could have done for him than you've done, and Loft have done for him.
I feed him.
You
I
mustn't
wash
feel like
him.
that.
And yet he won't communicate with me. If he just tell me what's going on, I can't get inside his brain. No. I can see him there. People come to the house. He smiles for them. He says the things that they want to hear. But it's not what's going on inside, the tremendous guilt that he feels. He feels he should have died with these boys. He feels it is wrong that he should have lived. I've talked to him and I said his courage above all in coming to terms with what's happened to him, his courage of living, even surviving the way he did.
He said this to me, that he thinks he ought to be dead. But I said to him, don't you dare say that to me. When we've grieved and worried and waited for news for you, and then you say things like that to us, don't you ever say that. because out of your face, it may be, well, I don't know, it's not deformed, but his voice is coming out of his face, and that's what we want. This is what we've always heard. Bless his heart, you know, you can't... I don't know what to say to you, Paul, I really don't.
What worries me more than anything, Mum, is that he'll go down into such a deep depression that he won't
Paul,
come out of it.
We won't allow that, because I'll come up and I'll shake him again. We'll try. And I think if we keep getting him mad, he'll think, well, I got to fight and I got to live, because he's got to live, see, Paul. I mean, he's too dear to us for something to happen to him. Especially now. He's lived all this time. He's fought to come where he is. And then he's going to do something to himself, not a new life. We won't allow that to happen. And Paul, you've got to steel yourself.
And another thing, Mum, perhaps that you don't know is he came into the bedroom crying, and he was standing over me, and he said, don't you realise how my hands got burned? And he's putting his hands under my face. I said, well, you got burned with a bomb. No, Mum, he said. There were 3 boys there, and I was trying to push them out. And why do you think my hands are all burned? He said, because when you go down, you clench your hands when you go down. But he said, I tried to push them out, and they wouldn't come, Mummy, and they were on fire. And I had to stop it when all the skin was dropping off my hands. And he said, and those boys died. And he said, and I ran, and I should be dead with them. He said, it's a terrible thing. I didn't know this, Mum. I really didn't know it. And it's so graphic that you just know that it's happened to him.
This is the type of thing he tried to help somebody else. And that's how his hands got burned. I didn't know that.
I didn't know it until he came in, and he had too much to drink, and then he started crying the rain. It was terrible to listen to him. And he's showing your hands like this. And he said, and it's until the skin dropped off my hands. And they wouldn't come, Mammy. They just wouldn't come, he said to me. And I had to leave them behind. It's the most terrible thing to listen to, Mum. And you just sit there and you're just crying with him. How do you answer somebody like that? And I just had to say to him, well, Simon, you had the courage and you just run. They just couldn't. I don't know what else to say to him. It was terrible. It was awful.
I don't know, but the only thing I can think, you must get help for him. He mustn't go any lower than he is at the moment.
And since the depression, I've snapped out of it. That was thanks to a lot of other people, my family, my friends. How they lived with me, I will never know. Because I was a swine. I come from a good village. Nobody's ever shunned me in the village.
People in other places, they treat me a little bit differently. In Nelson, people just accept me. And that's what I'm striving for wherever I go from now on. Is just to be accepted. I don't want to be taken any differently. Nelson in itself has given me the best friends I could ever have. They have never shown any indifference. When I couldn't go to the toilet, they've helped me. My friends have even wiped my own backside. Friends I've got in this village, second to none. You won't get better. You never will have better.
Outside of the village, I can go to a lot of places and I would feel at ease. But there's certain places I couldn't go because I wouldn't feel at ease. I went to Cardiff and people tended to be very ignorant and stare on purpose. I know it's hard not to stare, but some people blatantly stare. And they should try to understand that it's not just me who's injured. It could be them or somebody in their family, or it could be somebody living next door to them in their street.
15 pounds.
So.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Platform 2.
Thank you.
Have you got your money, tickets?
Aye, not a schoolboy. Not a little schoolboy.
It's all right saying that, Simon. You'll be on the phone to me tonight, won't you, saying I've forgotten this and I've forgotten that? We're just trying to check up that you've got everything. Right? Don't forget, ring me tonight now and let me know what's going on.
I'll give you a bell as soon as I get back.
I can't make it. I know I can't make it this weekend because I'm working. But Tuesday I'll definitely be up, all right?
All right, then.
So if there's anything you want, ring me in the meantime.
Okay. Yeah, 10 bob tip for being my driver.
Oh, thank you very much. You cheekies. Can you spare it?
Oh, just about it. Sometimes on a train, people can look, they can keep staring and stare too long. You know what I mean? You can understand people looking, but when they keep looking and keep looking, you feel like jumping up and poking them in the eye or something. You know what I mean? Because it's just damned rude. I mean, okay, fair enough, you've never seen it before, have a look, have a good look, and then that's it, don't keep on. It's just like somebody begging and keeping on pulling your shirt tail. People don't tend to realise, they don't think about it, because burns and scarring like this is horrific and not nice and pleasant, or as generally as accepted as a missing leg or a missing arm. I don't know whether people hide themselves away after this happens to them, but a lot of people, you don't see it, it's like a taboo subject, it's never talked about. And I think it should be. I don't think I fully have accepted my injuries or my scarring.
Hello, Simon.
Morning, sir.
How are you today?
Not so bad, sir.
You've got over last week, I hope.
Oh, definitely, sir, yeah.
How are the hands feeling?
A bit sore, but they're all right, sir.
Yes. I think you know really what we did this time, and that was to put in some more skin to release that tight area on there and around there, and the same on there. But I've covered it all up so that you don't catch the important graft dressings on anything. But I think that's given you some freedom with the fingers, would you? Just... Anyway, you don't feel quite so helpless as you have done before with the dressings. I think when these grafts have taken, you'll find that things are a lot more open and that you'll get a lot more movement out of them. Good. Now relax there, and let's just have a look at your face. Would you turn your face towards me a little? Good. As you can see, I've taken out several of those small tiresome areas where it was difficult to shave. Would you turn the other way? And it may be necessary to do some of those again where any other little areas around the edge, but by and large I think that that whole beard area has improved so much over the time, and the skin is so much more supple now that I think it'll stop pulling your face out of shape like it used to. Well, that's fine. And we seem to have come a long way in, what, 2 years and a bit now since we started all this. I think it's useful sometimes to think where is it all leading? What are we aiming for? Because the thing you've seriously got to think about now, you're still a soldier, is whether soldiering with these problems is really a worthwhile thing to do, or whether it isn't better to consider some form of new life in the world outside. And as you realise, there are certain things we can do for you as a soldier, like getting on with the mending after the injury, but there comes a stage in the late rehabilitation of your hands when we've got to decide what you're capable of doing, and more importantly, what the people outside think you're capable of doing, and what they think you can be retrained into doing.
It's not my final decision to make, and it's not yours, but we've got to come round to that thinking, and sooner or later we've got to ask people to make that assessment. So if you haven't given that...
It was something I knew he was going to say,
you did seriously think about this.
but when he said it, it was still a blow.
But it's something that we've got to come to terms with.
I suppose I will regret leaving the army. Yeah, I'll regret it because it was a way of life for me then, and in a way it's an uncertainty of what lies ahead now. I've accepted the fact that I've got to leave, because you can't stay on with hands like mine, and you can't be like a lead weight around people's necks. But I'll still feel a sick feeling in my stomach when I do finish. Yeah, I suppose it's only natural.
Simon, may I look at your hands now, please? Now, do this for me, please. Now, relax, please. Now, grip my fingers firmly. That's very good, very good. Simon Weston, your examination by the board has now been completed. The findings of the board concern the effects of your disability on your Pulliam's assessment. The Pulliam's assessment is a functional analysis in degrees of your capacity to undertake your military duties. The P quality in your Pulliam's assessment represents your general capacity, and the U quality concerns any defect you may have in the functional use of your hands. The board find that the P and U qualities of your Pulliam's profile should be assessed degree 8, which in effect means that you are unfit for further military service. The findings of the board will be submitted to the commanding officer of the hospital for confirmation. And when they've been confirmed, they will be forwarded to the commanding officer of your regiment for his authorization of your medical discharge from the army.
Civilian life. I don't really know what to expect in civilian life. I'll see people in the army who will resettle me and everything. It's down to professionals, it's down to people who are qualified to get the best out of you. And, well, that's what I'm pinning my hopes on.
Right, Simon, let me introduce Paul Diel.
Nice to meet you, Simon.
Paul is a disablement resettlement officer working with Manpower Services Commission, and he's our civilian link with the sort of job finding side. I'm Major Handy, I'm your resettlement officer. So have a sit down. Right, now we're here to discuss the situation now and the future, and really to try and find out how the civilian services and the army can help in eventually getting you into Civvy Street. That's the important thing. And this is really where we've got to take off from. We've got to forget about all the problems in the past and now look at civilian life and getting yourself established as a civilian. And for that, we need some sort of background on you and see some sort of ideas, thoughts of yours. We'll take these and just try and have a work with them. I mean, you joined the army fairly quickly from school, and the army then told you what to do. You haven't had to think of perhaps what you might have, what you might be able, what you might be capable of from a future point of view. Have you any ideas yourself? Have you had any thoughts?
Nothing of any any significance anyway.
Well, you know, insignificant or not, I think it's well worth having a look at. I think all of us have a little dream tucked away in the back of our mind. Now, it's the time to pull it out and have a look at it. Now, it may be impractical in the long run, but it's worth having a look at.
Well, I can't think of any job, to be quite honest with you. Not any job, anyway.
Well, I mean, let's suppose everything was fine, no problems at all, no background. Is there anything that you see yourself in, apart from the army?
No, I never did.
You haven't really sort of had any little odd sort of thoughts and dreams?
No, I never did. No, I was more into using brawn than brain. I found it a lot easier on the head.
I mean, even, you know, while you've been in the army and actually seen other people doing various jobs, nothing that sort of tickled your fancy at all?
No, not really. I just enjoyed doing what I was doing. In a funny sort of way, I enjoyed it anyway.
Like most soldiers occupying that chair, you're not really ready to move straight into a job. What you're looking for is something of a pre-entry program to going into employment, and that's really where the DRO can be useful from your point of view, because there are available to you more than 500 different training trades that you could go into. Now, most of those are not going to interest you in the least, but there will be a group of perhaps half a dozen or so that do spark an interest with you, and you decide after consideration that that's what you'd like to become involved with.
I haven't got a clue what I'm going to do. Not a clue. There's more chance of me knowing what the Pope's saying in Italian. I haven't got a clue. Not one iota. I'll try for a job. Preferably one that makes me a millionaire. I doubt if that's going to come along, so I'll just plod along. Joe Soap.
So how was the day, Simon? How did it go?
It was all right. It was hectic. But it was all right.
I thought about you all day.
I didn't have a chance to think about anything.
Were they helpful?
Yeah, they were very helpful.
Well, what were they able to offer you? What is the resettlement code? What did they say?
Well, I've got to see the resettlement officer down here, the local resettlement officer. I haven't, they can't do much for me up there because they don't know what the local area is like. They don't know what they can offer me down here. They know what their own areas are like.
Well, didn't they offer a course or anything like that? Didn't they say that, you know, they could put you on courses or anything?
They can send me on an assessment course. That's it, really. There's not much more they can do for you. They can only do so much.
Well, what about your medical board? How did that go?
Oh, that was fine. He just gave me the general check over.
They give you a full medical, did they?
Yeah, P8, U8.
Not being an army person, what does P8, U8 mean?
Physically unfit, and it meant my hands were unfit. U8 means my hands are unfit.
But how about the rest of you?
Well, basically said you can write it off. No. It's just part that you can't, they can't keep me in. Simple as that. It's a joke if I stay in the army, really.
Well, let's get just down to practicalities. What sort of...
You haven't got a clue. Nothing.
I mean, you don't want a sedentary job, do you? Just to be sitting there from 8 till 5?
want a job.
There's 3 million people who want a job too, Simon.
That'd be 3 million and one then, wouldn't it?
There's not a lot in this village for him. What is he going to do? And yet he's not prepared at this time to venture further than the village. And I think Nelson has helped him all it can do. I don't think Nelson can help him anymore. He needs to venture out further. He's going to vegetate if he stays here. But I don't know what the future holds. I really don't. He just doesn't know where he's going, and that worries me.
I don't intend to move away from Wales. I'll go away on holidays and such like, but hopefully I'll never leave Nelson, because I like it. I've been away from it once, and I nearly never came back. You've got to come to terms with getting up every day and looking in the mirror and saying, "Oh, last year you're still ugly. You still look the same way. You haven't changed." Oh yeah, it's not a thing that you wake up in the morning and it's gone. The scars settle, but you've got to live with it. It's your life. It's your face. If people don't like it, well, I'm sorry about that. They don't have to. It's there for life. Not much I can do about it. I'm not too worried about it now because I know I can't get rid of it. I know it'll get better, but I can't get rid of it.
I'd like very much for him to get married, yes I would. But he tells me that he'll never get married and that he's not going to have children. But I think one day somebody will come along and it'll happen and I'll be very, very pleased.
Because I got to slag you down about Chelsea.
No, I haven't got a girlfriend and I'm not really too bothered. One way or the other. If I have a girlfriend, it'll be it. And if I don't, I don't. There's not much I can do about it. I mean, I can't go up to somebody and say, "Hey, you're gonna go out with me," you know? I'd end up with a punch in the face. You know, so just leave it all go. As it happens, it'll happen. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be. People tend to think, because you're injured, poor boy. But there's none of that. I'm 23 years of age. I want to enjoy my life to the full. I want to eventually be working. I don't want to stagnate and stop. I want it to go on, and life is there to be lived and enjoyed. There's horrible things out there, yes, but it's not stopping me enjoying myself. Just because I've been injured, I don't intend to lay back and sit in a corner like a hermit and let the world pass me by. I want to be happy in life. I don't want to be miserable. And this is why, if more people found it more acceptable, the injuries, it would make it a lot easier for myself and other injured people to enjoy themselves.